Bernie wanted to put a few facts straight.
He's calling everyone a grass. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Leach. You're the grass. You went to court and give evidence against a man you stabbed, or 8 of his friends kicked the Charlton Athletic supporter into a coma. Cass Bennett and them all got nicked and Carlton got released. He made a video with John Williams insulting my dead wife. At that time, his missus was advertising on a site called Adult Word. I want to read 3 extracts from his book.
Repackaged Rise of the Foot.
Rise of the Fool, yeah. I wrote to him for about a year and he told me everything. He was a nail bomber. He put the bag down, walked out, boom. He never told anyone why he murdered those 2 girls. But he kind of explained it in a roundabout way to me. What you see on the internet are doing what I did 30 years ago. Just pulled out this 12-inch steel ruler and stabbed Allison in the back. And it was probably the biggest mistake in my life. I got really drunk and I ended up sleeping with her.
Yeah, Bernard, just wanted to let you know I'm seeing outside your house. You have about 34 minutes to come outside or you and your family ain't going to see the light of day ever again.
Hi Criminal Connection podcast crew, this is your host Terry Stone and today I've got something extra special for you. Now I know we all love diving deep into the intriguing world of true crime stories, but let me ask you this. Have you ever wanted to dive deep into content from other countries? Well now you can, thanks to our sponsor Surfshark VPN. Imagine this, you're sitting at home, scrolling through your content, suddenly you realise you're out of shows to watch. Oh, the horror. But wait. There's a whole new world out there waiting to be discovered. And with Surfshark VPN, you can unlock it all. That's right, folks, whether it's a gritty Swedish crime drama or it's a hilarious British sitcom, Surfshark have got you covered. Now, you know how much I love my television, but one of my favourite TV shows is Band of Brothers. Thanks to Surfshark, I can watch it anytime I want, wherever it's streaming. Surfshark isn't just about unlocking global content, it's also about keeping you safe online. You know, just in case you get any ideas after watching this podcast and you want to do some research, Surfshark encrypts your data and keeps you safe from prying eyes. So whether you're looking at the latest crime documentaries or just browsing, you can do it with peace of mind. And here's the best part, Surfshark are offering a 30-day money-back guarantee. That means you can try it out, risk-free. If you don't love it, you can get your money back, no questions asked. But trust me, once you start exploring all this extra content, you ain't gonna wanna give it up. So what are you waiting for? Go to surfshark.deals/podfather. Use our promo code PODFATHER podfather for an amazing discount. That's surfshark.deals/podfather. Use our promo code PODFATHER. Unlock the world of content today with Surfshark VPN and keep those true crime stories coming from every corner of the globe. And remember folks, stay curious, stay safe and stay connected with Surfshark VPN. Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast. My name's Terry Stone and today we're getting ready to rumble with Big Bernard O'Mahony. He's in the house. He's never done a podcast before. We were honoured to have him on our first episode when we launched this podcast way back in September. And he's decided there was a lot of things that he forgot to talk about. And there was a lot of things that he wanted to talk about. And obviously lots of people have made comments. There's been videos. There's been all sorts of things going on social media. So Bernie wanted to put a few facts straight. So welcome back, Bernie, to the Criminal Connection podcast.
Thank you, Terry. And congratulations on it. It's been absolutely... we've had some brilliant guests on. Lee was fantastic. And
it was brilliantly.
My old adversary, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah. We've had, I mean, do you know what's great about the whole thing? You know, it was an idea, but I want to thank you, Bernie, because obviously you've introduced us some amazing guests and I appreciate all the support you've given for the channel and obviously all the guests you brought on. So yeah, and this is the grand finale for Bernard because he's not doing any more podcasts. Is that right?
Yeah, I did the first one and then it's quite difficult sitting here, really. People might not realise it, but your mind's going 100 miles an hour and then you walk out the door and you think, I never mentioned that, I never mentioned this, I never mentioned that. So there was quite a lot I never mentioned. So I wanted to come back, have my say, and then that's the end of it.
Hang up your podcast microphone.
Hang up my podcast microphone. Yes, exactly. And So that's what I'm here today to do, you know.
I mean, I honestly thought after our first episode, I honestly thought Carlton may have come on to the show when I offered him a chance to be interviewed in a mankini, and I was going to wear a wig, but he didn't take me up on the offer, and he politely declined. I mean, I was quite shocked by that.
Well, I'm not, because he talks the talk, but, you know, he no disrespect to him, he just doesn't know much about what he talks about. He was a football hooligan, he knows all about that, that's fine, but when he starts talking about the case of his mate getting murdered, you know, he knows nothing. One day they murdered at 3 a.m, then it was this time, that time, and he doesn't do himself any favours by trying to talk about it. But the main thing I forgot to mention about him, he is like a typical villain, except for he doesn't commit crime. He wants to be a villain, and like all them sort of villains, it's everyone who displeases him is a grass, is this, is that, the other.
Wrong.
And he's always throwing grass at me and wronging at me and wronging at me.
Oh, but, so he calls you a grass and a wrong one?
Everything.
Right, okay.
Everything. You know, the war in Israel's my fault, according to him, do you mean?
Why did you start that, Bernie? Can you just let it be?
Who knows? But anyway, it's not a bitch fest, it's fact, right? So in October 94, he was working at a place called the Barge in Battersea, and it was like they used to have lots of party boats, you know, in London on the Thames at the time, and people would go to a rave, get out their head, and sort of go there after in the early hours of the morning to chill out, do you know what I mean? So he's working on this barge at Battersea, and about 9 o'clock in the morning, this black guy turns up, 32-year-old black guy, and for whatever reason, they've refused him entry. And whenever you refuse someone entry, there's always a bit of argy-bargy, you know what I mean? They're upset they can't get in. So he's either said something or done something. Anyway, he ends up getting assaulted by the doorman. Some say he was slashed, I don't know. So I won't nail that to the door, but he was assaulted. So he's gone away and he's returned shortly afterwards and he's got a gun. So he starts firing indiscriminately in the air mostly. And all the guests on the boat are panicking and the doorman sort of tackle him. And by Leach's own account, he stabbed this guy several times and they've battered him and the police have turned up. They threw the gun in the river to get rid of it. And the police have had the bloke sent to St Thomas's Hospital. He's had about 7 pints of blood. He's in a really critical condition. And he's in intensive care in St Thomas's. And they nicked Leach because he's the head doorman and he's the man they want to speak to. So if I can just explain the process of going to court. When a crime occurs, the police rock up, they look for witnesses, identify witnesses, and they sit them down and they make a statement. So they make their statements. Then if the police arrest someone, they interview them and they get all the evidence and they give it to the Crown Prosecution Service. The Crown Prosecution Service go through all the evidence and they say, these statements are strong enough to get that man convicted, charge him, send him to court. So that's the process. So Leach has sat down and made a statement. The man has been charged and he's up on trial at the Old Bailey.
Do you know what the charges were, Bernie?
Well, possession of a firearm.
So they actually recovered it from the river,
Well,
then, no doubt.
He'd shot at people. So,
Right, okay.
you know, I don't know the exact charges, but they were serious charges anyway, because you're firing indiscriminately. There was 100 people on the boat.
Wow.
And I'm sure other people made statements. And so the guy's up on trial at the Old Bailey and the police are trying to get hold of Leach. And he's saying, I ain't going to the trial, to his mates, he says. But then on the third day of the trial, the police go to his mother's address and serve a witness summons on him, where he's got to go to court. So he says in his book, I didn't want to get into trouble, right? So I had no choice but to go to court to give evidence against this guy. And his exact words in his book was, I became the chief prosecution witness, he says, right? Now, me, I ain't got a problem with people going to court. I don't think they're bad people. There's normal citizens go to court and give evidence against people. That's their business. But what annoys me with him, he's calling everyone a grass. You know what I mean? You're a grass. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Leach. You're the grass. You know what I mean? You went to court and give evidence against a man you stabbed. How bad is that? Do you know what I mean?
Wow. That's a controversial statement, Bernie. I think there's going to be another video coming.
No, but how bad is that? You nearly took that man's life, and then you're trying to send him to prison.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm just surprised how bad a shot the guy was. I mean, if you pull a gun out and and there's 7 doormen there, I mean, or 6 doormen there, I mean, you'd kind of be aiming at them, wouldn't you?
You would, yes. So what Leach says in his defence, he goes, well, he was never found guilty. But I've asked him when we've had these internet spats, you know what I mean? Tell me the man's name, I'll research him, and we'll find out if he was found guilty.
We'll find out the truth.
Yeah, the truth. But I can't see how he wasn't found guilty, because Leach said, I was in the witness box and I said, all I remember it was a black guy with a gold tooth. So he's trying to make out it's mistaken identity. But the guy in the court is the guy who was full of holes. So there's not much.
I suppose if he was a black guy with a gold tooth, it obviously was him, right? I mean, there couldn't have been anybody else.
Well, no, he had loads of stab wounds as well, and he was in hospital.
That's what I mean, though. So it couldn't have been anyone else.
So it could only be him. So he's talking.
But didn't Carlton get arrested for stabbing the guy?
No.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Same when him and 7 of his friends or 8 of his friends kicked a Charlton Athletic supporter when they were in their early 20s into a coma. Cass Pennant and them all got nicked and Carlton got released. You know, who knows? Or his mate Phil Mitchell was arrested.
But the guy out of EastEnders?
No. No, he's a big guy. He's a proper guy.
I didn't know that. Sorry, Phil. No disrespect. I thought you were about to say, don't you mean Steve McFadden?
He was arrested with this and, right. Leach wasn't. But I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I'm sure someone else does. But the thing at Battersea is 100% he's grassed the guy up. Do you know what I mean? He says I was the chief prosecution witness. So, that's sort of typical of his hypocrisy. Like when, can I look?
Huh?
Can I look?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So Bernie's actually got some notes because he wanted to make sure that he didn't miss anything.
I don't want to miss anything. Yeah, so, Leach, sorry. So, like, Leach is saying, I'm a proper man, I ain't a grass, I ain't this. Well, let's look at him being a proper man, Like, when he's on the, he made a video with John Williams calling my wife, insulting my dead wife and all that. At the same time, his missus, when he was insulting my wife, my dead wife, at that time, his missus, who he was with at the time, was advertising on a site called Adult Work as a prostitute. She was willing to entertain 1 man, 2 men, groups of men, And
what was he doing when all this was going on?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he didn't know about it, but if it was my wife, I think I would know about it. And, and that's proper. And
Can I ask you a question, Bernie? I don't actually understand. What was the reason for... it was John Williams, right? What was the reason for John Williams and Carlton doing a video? Do you know, or was it just
to get at me? Right, okay. Just to get at me, no other reason at all.
To celebrate, obviously, you losing your wife and to dig you out.
No, but what is the worst thing you can do to a man? Like insult their dead parents, insult their dead wife. Right. It's a bit like smashing their grave up, isn't it? And they knew it would hurt me, and it did hurt me, and I'll never forget that. And I'm telling you, if they think for a minute that that's not, that nothing's going to come of that, they're really mistaken. But I'm in no rush. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly, I don't know why anybody would do that. There's meant to be some sort of ethics and morals, in life, and whether you're a straight goer or whether you're a criminal, whether you're a gangster, whatever you want to say, there are sort of rules. You know what I mean? And I think that is not. There's no justification for doing that in my eyes.
They're on the video laughing about it, and they forget. My wife had sisters. She had family, and it broke their hearts. You know what I mean? What they said about it broke their hearts. And that mug, Williams and Leach, another mug, right, are on there talking about being proper. proper. You know what I mean? I've just.
You can't laugh. I mean, I'm not laughing. It's just mad.
I want to be fair to him, right? And I want to read 3 extracts from his book about being proper, right? Okay. Muscle, page 22.
So if you got it's also been repackaged as Rise of the Foot.
Rise of the Foot, right? Yeah.
So you can. So there is a book called Rise of the Foot Soldier, not Rise of the Fall. And before that, it was called Muscle.
That's a typing error. It should have been called Rise of the Fall. Yeah.
But on you said it's page 22.
Page 22.
So if anyone's got the book, or if you want to get the book, if you get page 22, and Bernie's going to read this out, but obviously you can check it is in print, so he's not Bernie making it up.
This is why I want to read it, so I'm not misquoting him. Leach describes dragging his ex-partner Kelly out of a party because other men might have been looking at her. I dragged her out of a party and terrified the 200 guests so much that even the doormen locked themselves in their car. Kelly is a really pretty redhead with a lovely slim figure and a great smile. I knew other men looked at her and fancied her. They probably wondered what the hell she was doing with a lump like me twice her age. I should have been proud that she was attractive, but the green-eyed monster got the better of me, and all I felt was raging jealousy if another bloke looked at her. You know, page 21 again. Another time I picked up a settee and threw it across the room like it was a kid's toy. I'd lost control of the terrible violence inside me, and my family was suffering. I'd put them through hell. I put a gun to Denny's head. This is his children's mother, right? I'd held a knife to her throat, lovely guy. That's how bad it was. I was a walking time bomb and dangerous to be near. No wonder she eventually kicked me out. Well, no wonder indeed, right? Family Leach is always boasting or everything. On page 20, he reveals just how cheap his talk is, right? One day, Denny served me up a meal that was about the size of a child's dinner. I went berserk. I yelled at her, how the fuck am I supposed to live on that? I hurled the plate across the room and it smashed against the wall. I dragged the fridge and turned it over. I smashed the kitchen up, causing hundreds of pounds worth of damage. I picked up a baseball bat and was smashing myself across the head with it. You know, this man is he's claiming he's like a man of respect and, you know, never hurt women and kids, you know what I mean? And he's got the audacity to mock every aspect of my life. My dead wife, God rest her soul. Women, you know, he said about my wife and our autistic kids. No, my kids are autistic, right? And then he mocks me for when I used to catch as well. His best friend, right, is a guy called Stephen Amass. And 2 years ago, Leach, his friend, Stephen Amass, right, was caught by pedophile hunters trying to entice a 14-year-old into having sex with him. And he actually pleaded guilty at court. And, well, maybe that's why he doesn't like me. Because I used to catch pedophiles, so maybe that's why he doesn't like me.
But I think you should explain that, Bernie, as well, because for anybody, there was a couple of comments on the first episode, and the people sent me messages as well, saying, oh, Bernie wrote to these people, and Bernie done this, and why is he talking to these pedophiles, and why is he talking to these people? But obviously there's a reason behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
in the early 80s, I was contacted by the News of the World about this Scottish guy who'd gone missing in Glasgow, right? And Gary Jones, a journalist, for some reason thought I was involved, right? But back then, the media was a lot different than it is now. They used to like threaten you, do you know what I mean?
And also, to bear in mind, there was no social media then, and there really wasn't an internet, was there? It was just a paper.
Not in the early 80s. There was nothing. And they used to say, either come and speak to us or we'll stick your name in the paper anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm going, I ain't nothing to do with this. He was going, well, come and meet me. So I met him at the Tower Bridge Hotel. Right. And he was the top crime reporter on the News of the World at the time. He's since become a really good friend of mine. He's the editor of the Daily Express, right? And he said to me, oh, we've heard this, we've heard that. I said, Gary, I'm telling you, nothing to do with me, right? So we sat there and we're chatting about general things. And at the time, I was visiting Ronnie Crane, Broadmoor Hospital. And he said to me, oh, what's he like? I said, oh, he's an all right guy, you know what I mean? He's got his problems, but he's all right. And he said, do you ever see the Ripper when you're in there, the Yorkshire Ripper? Because the Yorkshire Ripper was in Broadmoor at the same time.
Did Ronnie ever have it with him?
Yeah, he did, yeah. The Ripper bashed him up, yeah.
The what?
The Ripper bashed Ronnie up.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I see him all the time. He sits at the next table to us, right? And he said, well, if you ever get any stories on him, like, we'd be interested. And I said, well, why didn't you just write to him and ask him what you want to ask him? Seemed logical to me, do you know what I mean? He said, the Ripper won't reply to the news of the world, do you know what I mean? So, of course he will. He's only a lorry driver, you know, he's not a pop star or anything. So
I can't get my head round Yorkshire Ripper beating up Ronnie Cray.
Yeah,
it just sounds fucking crazy.
He did, because Ronnie was always goading him. Right. And the Ripper just turned on him.
Because Ronnie was
quite frail.
Oh, right, okay. So
people when I remember the first time I met Ronnie, I went in the room and I was looking around for this big growling, you know, the guy who was captioning the David Bailey photos, and I couldn't see him. And then there's this little old guy in the corner, really smart, and it was him. And he got up and he walked towards me and he put his hands on my shoulders, and I thought he was going to kiss me. I went, whoa, because I knew he was preferred men, do you know what I mean? I went, oh, and he started laughing. He went, no, he said, nothing like that. He said, I'm definitely seeing, I was just wanting to try and talk to you. Do you know?
I thought you'd have walked out. I've still got it.
But he went, no, I'm deaf. He said, I brought you so when you talk to me, I can hear you. Do you know?
What was he saying to the Yorkshire Ripper to go with him?
He was always calling him a nuts and everything. Do you know?
But I mean, he can't. I mean, it's just. I remember reading that story like growing up and just thinking like, what person actually fucking does that? Just goes around, because I remember he was killing the women, but was he having sex with them as well? So he was sort of like,
he was smashing them with the hammer. Yeah.
I mean, that's just fucked up, isn't it? I mean.
Well, I can tell you a bit more about that. So I'm saying, Gary, listen, if you write to me, I'll write back to you. So he goes, he won't. I said, right, I'll tell you what, I'll do it for you. I'll show you how easy it is, right?
Was you called Bernie or Sheila when you wrote?
No. I need to explain this to you.
Right.
So you've set yourself this task of writing to this person, right? So you have to think, who is he going to reply to?
Right.
If Bernie the bouncer writes to him, the chances are pretty much zero. Do you know what I mean? So the type of people he used to kill were like vulnerable, you know, women. A lot of them had problems with drugs, and you know they weren't, you know, God rest them, they weren't normal. Of course they were normal people, but they had issues in their life, right? So they're quite vulnerable. So I thought, right, I'll invent this vulnerable, dopey barmaid, right, called Belinda Cannon, right? And write to him. So wrote to him, and he wrote back. I went, Gary, there you are. He done it, right? And he went, well, see, ask him about Lady Diana, because she used to go and visit people in Broadmoor at the time, if he's ever met Lady Diana or Jimmy Savile, right? And so he was asking me questions to ask him, and I was writing to him, and he was answering, and he answered everything. And what you was mentioning earlier about how could anyone do that, I got to know him quite well, and I worked out from what he told me, when he was really young, his mother left the father and moved in with a blind guy whose back garden backed onto theirs. And it broke his heart, do you know what I mean? That his mother had gone to live with this guy and kind of cut him out of his life. And then when he met his wife, Sonia, she cheated on him.
Wow.
So he had another deep-seated thing about women. And I think, from the way he talked, he just hated women. And the reason he killed prostitutes is because they were easy to kill, because you say, get in my car, they get in your car, you drive off to a really quiet place, no dramas, no one's around, kill them. It's harder to kill a woman going to the shops. You know
so
what
he
I mean?
didn't sleep with them or anything, he just killed them?
Some he tried to.
Right, okay.
But most of them he just bashed over the head with an hammer and then cut them to pieces. But I think it was a deep-seated hatred of women what drove him, you know, to do it. But I wrote to him for about a year, and he told me everything from his favourite colour to why he hated women, why he hated prostitutes, why this, that and the other.
What was his favourite colour?
I can't remember. I think it was black.
I can imagine that, yeah. Extra black.
But he was dead rational, honestly, scary rational. You know, he wouldn't shun any question, and he'd have an explanation for everything. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? And
Was his explanations, did you read any of them and think, oh, actually, this makes sense? Or did you just think, okay, he's just fucking nuts? Because sometimes these people that are nuts, they do actually come out with some profound
there's
stuff.
a rational to them, you know, there's a rational to them, but you can see, well...
You shouldn't really be wondering
you
about.
You shouldn't really be thinking, Like, I was fascinated by how can you go and murder a woman? And he didn't just murder him, he butchered him, right? So he would be covered in blood, right? So how can you go home? Because say I went out for a weekend or something and left my jeans in an hotel room, within a couple of days my wife would go, where's them black jeans gone? You know what I mean? They know. They know, don't they? So I'm thinking, how can he get home and all this blood-stained clothing? And she can't wash it, can she? Because she would think, oh, you've had a day at work.
It's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, you know, hi, honey, I'm home.
Yeah.
Oh, how was your day? Oh, it was great. You know, I murdered a couple of shoots. I one with a hammer. I cut them up. Oh, great. What's for dinner? Oh, I've got fish finger sandwiches. Put some tartar sauce on that. I mean, unless she was just literally not, you know, sometimes.
See, I think they've got to know. I really do. I can't see how you can't, do you know what I mean? Just your demeanour, you know, everything. Anyway, he reckons he used to come home and wash them when she was in bed, do you know what I mean? But if I washed my own clothes, my wife would be really concerned. Do you know what I mean? She'd go, you doing your own washing?
There's definitely something wrong.
But that's what I'm saying about, you know, when you compare what he's telling you to normal life, you think, I ain't having that. Do
you think, because I can't remember how he got caught, but did his wife not grass him up?
No.
He actually got caught.
He picked a girl up and a police car pulled him over and he said, I want to go for a piss. And when he went for a piss, he dropped the hammer and the screwdriver over a wall. And then the car had false number plates on. So they took him to the station because they'd had him in 3 or 4 times over the years. And the cop or this sergeant thought, that's how he went for a piss. And he went back and he looked in the wall and he found the hammer and the screwdriver, went back to the police station and they put it to him and he went, yeah, I'm the Yorkshire Ripper. But he said to the police, please don't tell my wife. Can you bring her here? I want to tell her myself. And that, you know, they let her. Whether he went, you know, wink, wink, I'm the Ripper.
And it's just, I mean, that's a fucking hard conversation to have with your wife.
Yeah.
Babe, I've got something to tell you. What's that? I've killed loads of people with hammers and carved them up. I mean, what would you say to that? I mean, it's just...
Your favourite bread knife, do not use it again.
Did he ever say what he did with the actual weapons? Did he like throw them away or did he...
No, the police got him, they caught him with him.
So he had the same weapons, he just reused
Pretty
every
much,
time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you get a lot of...
Because some of them serial killers, they do mad shit, don't they? Like they keep a bit of their clothing or take a shoe or whatever.
Yeah, well, I don't know a lot about serial killers, but...
I mean, he was a serial killer, really, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. He killed 13 and attempted to murder another 7, so 20 puts you on the pitch, didn't it, for serial killers? Yeah. Towards the end of the correspondence, there was a journalist called Barbara Jones who got friends with the Ripper's wife, right? And she wrote a book in which there was a plan to get the Rippers to escape from Broadmoor. So the News of the World went, forget his letters, we're going to go with this. And they did like this big 2-page spread on Barbara Jones's book. She worked for the News of the World, so it made sense. So I thought, all right, well, that's the end of that. So almost immediately after the Ripper correspondence ended, there was a murder in a place called Marsk near Hartlepool. And it was a 7-year-old boy. His family had just moved from a city to the seaside to get away from dangerous, dodgy people and all that, to have a better life. And he's gone out on his bike and he's not come home, so there's a big search for him. And eventually they find his body stripped naked, thrown down a ravine, right? He's been murdered. So they arrest this character called Richard Blenky, and he denied all knowledge of it, right? So he's remanded in custody, but he's not talking to the police. So because of my own childhood, I was never abused, but I was physically, violently abused, but not sexually abused. I always hated people who hurt women and children. So I thought, I wonder if Blenky'd fall for the same thing as the Ripper, right? Because I've been in prison and you go through 3 different stages, right? You get charged and you're down in the dumps. And worse for a pedophile, because you've got the whole prison shouting, "You're going to die." They're spitting in his food. He hasn't got a friend in the world, right? He's in this concrete box. And the whole world hates him, right? So you're in a really low, and then you'll get a liberal lawyer come a few months later who go, "We can get you off this on a technicality." So your spirits are raised, right? But then near this your trial, you get served with all the prosecution evidence, and you think, I'm done. So you're on a low, right? So I knew he was going to go through three stages before he went to trial. So I wrote him a letter in my own name because he likes males, so I thought there's no point making up a name. In my own name, and said, whatever happened to innocent until proved guilty. All these people who are saying you've done it, it's not right, blah, blah, blah. So that letter's come through the darkness, and he's grabbed it with both hands thinking, I've got a friend here, do you know what I mean? Right. So he's writing back. Never ever mentioned the case, just talk about everyday things. So he's relaxing. And it was funny. He went, "Will you come and see me?" Right? And I thought, can I? I thought, yeah, go on, and I will. So I went to Durham, and we're in this big visit, and the whole country hates this person, right? He's been in the front page of every newspaper in the country. And there's all these big tattooed Geordie women in the waiting room waiting to see their husbands, you know what I mean? And all this on about this pal. So the screws must have thought, I'm his real friend, right? So they thought, we don't like him either, do you know what I mean? How can you have a mate like that, right? So they've gone, O'Mahony, visit for Blinky. The whole room turned around staring at me, right? So I've gone in to see him, and he went to. He's got like a withered hand, like a dodgy hand, do you know what I mean? And he's gone to shake my hand. I thought, I ain't shaking your hand, especially that withered thing, do you know what I mean? So I sat there and I spoke to him, and as I've left, they've all started following me out the prison visiting room, and these Geordie women are going, "Oh yeah, shit bag, you thing." I'm thinking, well, so I've jumped in my car and I've come running across the car park on my way, and I think, get involved with all that. So I've carried on writing to him, and then about a month before the trial, what he did, he invented this imaginary person, right? And he was saying to me, I forget the person's name, say it was Billy, right? He said, I went into where the murder took place and I saw Billy, right, killing him. And he was doing this, that and the other. And he said, Billy's threatened to kill my family if I grass him up, right? So he's kind of telling me the story of the murder, but through a third party. So I've just said nothing and gone along with it. Anyway, about a month before the trial, I've gone up to see him. And I said, you're full of shit, right? I said, I know 1,000,000% that you killed that kid, right? So you need to stop all the bollocks. You've hurt the family enough. Now just tell them the truth and get what's coming to you, right? You get what you deserve. So he never said nothing. And then about a week later, he wrote me a letter and he told me, yeah, I killed him and blah, blah, blah. So when he went to court, there was a guy, right? What he did, he said to this little boy, 7-year-old boy, I've got chickens, right? He had a chicken shed. He said, come in the chicken shed and I'll give you an egg and you can have it for your tea, right? So he's took the boy in the chicken shed and he's attacked him and him in the shed and strangled him, right? And there was this school teacher going by on a push bike and he said to the police, I heard crying. And he said, if I'd have got off my bike and gone in there, I could have saved him because he was crying. He was obviously still alive when I went by. And I asked Blinky about that. I said, this person said they heard you crying. He goes, no, the boy was already dead then. He said, that was me crying. So I was able to tell that guy, you know, you couldn't have saved him. He was already gone, which I'm always grateful for. But anyway, he went to the trial. He pled guilty and he got sentenced to life. But the great thing about it, I thought, was like with Steele and Womes and lots of other people who get sentenced to life imprisonment, right? That family heard the person say, yeah, I did it. He can't appeal. He can't have no freedom campaign. He's in prison to this day, right? And, you know, he probably might never get out, do you know what I mean? So there's closure.
I mean, for me,
there's closure.
For me, as an outsider looking in, You know, I've got kids, so I've got no sympathy for anybody that fucks around with kids or molests them or kills them or whatever. For me, it's off limits. So hearing what you've done, you know, if you hadn't have done that, he'd have probably said it wasn't me, somebody else, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he'd have got off, maybe he wouldn't have done. But I think what you did, you actually performed a fucking service to keep that person fucking off the streets. So,
but after that, I was really pleased.
So to be clear, Bernie is not friends with these people.
No. In fact, I've ruined their lives, you know what I mean? But after that, there was a 3-year-old girl, which is about that size, isn't it? Called Rosie Palmer. And the council, in their wisdom, moved a man called Sean Armstrong into the flat next door to hers, right? Or across the street. Now, Sean Armstrong was the product. His mother, right? And let me get this right. His father was his mother's father. So the father had sex with the daughter and produced Sean Armstrong. He'd already been accused of trying to rape an 18-month-old baby, right? He had serious psychiatric issues, right?
Where do you get these people from, Bernie?
Yeah, well, you don't drink in the same place as me, do you? But
it's just insane.
There was an ice cream van, comes in the street, ding, 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 all the kids come out. He spotted this 3-year-old and he's bought her a lolly and said, "Oh, come to the flat and I'll give it you." They actually found it melted on his settee later. Now, this is, I don't want to put this in your mind, but it is horrific. And it needs to be said for these people who criticise me, right? Sean Armstrong's over 6 foot tall, right? This child is there. If you own a dog and I go in your house and I attack you, the chances are that dog will attack me, right? It's what they do. Do you know what I mean? So this little girl sitting on the settee eating this lolly, 3-year-old girl, and he's attacked her and started to rape her. So she's screaming. The dog's heard her screaming and the dog has started to attack her and bite her while he's raping her. I cannot think of a more horrific death for an innocent child. You know, it's quite upsetting.
I just want to get a hammer and go fucking Peter Sutcliffe on him.
Yeah, so
I mean that as well, because it's just fucking, what a low life doing that to a fucking 3-year-old.
So he denied all knowledge of it. He put a body in a dustbin bag, in a black bin line, and put it in his airing cupboard, right? And they searched the state and everything else. And anyway, eventually they found her, and he denied all knowledge of it. And he was the same. He was in prison. So I thought, I've got to get you. So I've wrote to him, and I forget what name I used, but it was a female name because he obviously liked females. And he, you know, started telling me these stories. He was innocent. He was this, he was that, he was that. And the same again, went all the way up to trial. And I said to him, "I don't believe you." Do you know what I mean? "I think you killed her." So he wrote back to me, and the words are quite important, really. He said, "Yes, I did it, but please don't tell." Right? That's what he said. He went, "Yeah, I killed her."
You writing back saying, "Your secret's safe for me."
Yeah, exactly. I contacted the police, give the police the letters, and he didn't know about the letters, right? He went to court to plead not guilty, and because it happened, you know, he sent me the letter and the court case was a few days later. So he's gone to court to plead not guilty. All the family are there. The poor girl's mother she was a nurse, and she's suffered ever since. She's had so many breakdowns, and God bless her, you know, and it's ruined her life, right? So they've gone to court, and the prosecution, last minute thing, look through, and they've gone to defence. "You better look at these," you know what I mean? And he just crumbled, pleaded guilty, and got life imprisonment. He's still inside. He's been denied parole 7 times. And then
I don't think you'd ever want him to let someone like that out.
No, they should hang him. They should hang him. They should make him do life and then hang him at the end of it. You know, give him 10 years or something, so that you know.
Death by firing squad.
But, well, it's a waste of bullets, isn't it? But give him 10 years or 15 years so that there can be no new evidence come forward. And then when they're happy there's no evidence, just hang them. Do you know what I mean? Publicly as well. But he comes back into the story in a minute. And then I've wrote to loads of these people, right? But where I've got them to confess, right? The other one was the nail bomber, who most people remember
Was that the guy who went to the? Was it? Did he have a thing about he didn't like gays?
That well,
And he went to Soho and he tried to blow up a gay bar. Is that
David
the guy?
Copeland? He planted a bomb. He reckons he was a Nazi, right? But he wasn't. He was just a failure, right? And he had a thing called a micro penis, right?
Right.
You might know about this, Terry.
Do you know what, Bernie? I don't, but I know a man who does.
And basically, it's like an ingrown toenail, you know, but it's a penis. It's very small, right?
So it does exist, a micro penis?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I thought it was...
No,
right,
neither did I. But he had one, and his parents used to taunt him, right? His own parents used to taunt him about him being gay, and so he grew up with this seething hatred of, you know, gays, basically.
Right.
And he then decided he was going to become a Nazi, and he put a bomb at Brixton. He blew Brixton Market up. Then he put one in Aldgate or somewhere, with the Asian community, off Brick Lane. Blew a car up there. And funny, one in Brixton, someone actually nicked the bomb. Do you know
Where did he? I mean, did he? Because you know, if you're one of these kind of like slightly unhinged people that decides you're going to start blowing people up for whatever reason, I mean, where did he fucking learn how to do that?
Internet.
That was on the internet.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, don't try that at home, kids. But then he went to the Admiral Duncan pub in Soho. I mean, he's walked into the bar and there's a lady from Chelmsford, her husband, their friend, they're going to the theatre. She's pregnant, right? She's carrying an unborn baby. And he sat there drinking Coke, chatting to people around him, put the bag down, walked out, boom, blew him to smithereens.
So it wasn't a gay bar then?
It was, yeah, the Admiral, Duncan.
But those people that were there, they were just theatre goers that just went for
No, it's the Admiral Duncan. It was a gay bar.
Right, okay. So what was the woman you were talking about?
She'd gone in there to meet their gay friend. They were going to the theatre.
Right,
nice
okay.
people, do you know what I mean? And there's people lost arms, legs, horrific injuries, horrific, do you know what I mean? And they eventually caught him. He denied all knowledge of it. And a bit different he was because he pleaded not guilty due to diminished responsibility. He said he was mad, not bad. Do you know what I mean? Right. So you can't help having a mental illness. So all the courts can do is put you in the nut house, and if a doctor one day says you're cured, you're away. You know what I mean? So he was in Broadmoor, and what name? I wrote to him using his female's name called Patsy, right? Because he'd never had a girlfriend in his life. But Patsy's also American slang for a mug, you know what I mean? So I thought it was quite funny to call her Patsy, you know what I mean?
Right.
And we wrote to him and he proposed to her and because he'd never had a girlfriend, do you know what I mean? And he was talking about all right-wing nonsense and all this sort of stuff. And then I said to him, how are you getting on with the doctors? He said, between me and you, I've fooled them, right? He said, I've fooled the doctors. Oh, yeah. So he was going, there's nothing wrong with me really. I've told them this, I've told them that and all the rest of it.
Don't the police officers, not the police officers, the prison officers, I thought they read the
They're
mail,
meant to. They're meant to.
Right, okay.
On this occasion they did because I was at work in Peterborough. Yes, I work for a living. And I got a call one day and they said I was...
Do you actually work, Bert?
Yeah, I work.
I thought you just made millions of pounds out of the Essex boys.
Yeah. 16-hour shifts last week, delivering new lorries around this wonderful country.
Right.
But they said, it's special branch, right? We need to speak to you. And I thought, yeah, it's fucking one of my mates in the pub, you know what I mean? So I goes, oh, yeah, where are you then? He goes, we're outside your house. You better come home there. So I thought, all right. So I went home and it was special branch. And they said, we're working on the coat and thing. You've got to stop writing to him there. I said, all right, fair enough. And they said, because of the things he said, if you go any further, it could be deemed dodgy or something. But we've got everything we need, you know what I mean? So he's gone on trial at the Old Bailey saying he was mad, not bad. So they charged him in murder and he was trying to get manslaughter, diminished responsibility. So the scene, I was told, the most, the biggest thing in the trial, you had all these people in the public gallery who'd lost arms, legs, and they were showing images of the aftermath of the bomb on the screens as part of the evidence.
I remember seeing the papers. It was horrific.
And Copeland's just sat there through the whole trial and he never showed any emotion whatsoever. All right? All these main people and dead people and everything. And then they said to Copeland, have you been writing to somebody called Patsy? And he said, yeah. And they said, well, did you know Patsy is really Bernard O'Mahony from Peterborough? He's a male. And they said he put his head in his hands and he slumped down onto the bench and he never lifted his head again. Do you know what I mean? It killed him. And they had 5 psychiatrists for the defence and 3 for the prosecution. And all 5 for the defence said he's a paranoid schizophrenic, he suffers from this, he suffers from that, he suffers from that. And the prosecution went, have you seen these letters? And they read them and they went, we take all that back. And he got found guilty of murder, do you know what I mean? Murdered the woman and a child. And so I was pleased about
So that woman, the pregnant woman, she actually died?
She died, and the unborn baby, and her husband and their friend, yeah. And after all that, out of the blue, I got court papers sent to me from this Liberal lawyer in Liverpool, right? And he wanted £15,000 off me, damages, for his client, Sean Armstrong, the one who murdered the 3-year-old girl. And what he said was, because Armstrong said to me, please don't tell, he was telling me in confidence. So I've breached his confidence and he was suing me for breach of confidence.
Bad man, Bernie.
He got legal aid, right? There was an absolute outrage in the newspapers that he was suing me, the person who got him convicted. And Mo Molam, the MP, bless her soul, she jumped on board with me and she went, right, we ain't having this, you know what I mean? And the mayor of Hartlepool, what they said to me was, fight it, which I said to the court, listen, I'll cut my throat before I give him a penny, do you know what I mean? That's what I said to him. I said, don't worry, what you find your silly law about breach of confidence, it ain't happening. I ain't paying him nothing, right? You're wasting your time. And what they said to me was, because he's suing me, I can have the case moved to anywhere I want in the country, like, because it's a county court thing. So I moved it to Hartlepool. And the mayor of Hartlepool said, if he comes to this town, he'll get strung up, do you know what I mean? Because the people of Hartlepool, you know, hated him. And the case went on, started in September 2001 and ended in June. And he just withdrew. When the mayor said that, do you know what I mean? But Mo Molam helped me a lot with that case. So that's my horrific...
Big up, Mo! Big up, Mo!
Yeah. But that's my, vile dealings with pedophiles. I've done loads of others. I did Ian Huntley, who murdered Ollie and Jessica in Soham. He wouldn't confess, but there was lots of information he gave me, which was useful to the police. Sarah Payne, who was murdered by Roy Whiting.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was bizarre, that was. Roy Whiting's solicitor kept telling him to stop writing to this person, and he wouldn't. So I come home from work one day and there's a card through my door. There's a parcel for you, ring this number, right? So I've rung this number and the guy's gone, who's this? I said, well, you've asked me to ring you. You must know who I am. He went, no, who is it? I said, I ain't telling you. You've asked me to ring you. You must know who you want to speak to. He went, it's O'Mahony, isn't it? I went, I'm not telling you. He goes, we know it's O'Mahony. He said, we are representing Roy Whiting. I said, you can't do this on legal aid, do you know what I mean? you can't do it. But that correspondence stopped. As I said, Ollie and Jessica was by Ian Huntley. He never told anyone why he murdered those 2 girls, but he kind of explained it in a roundabout way to me. He was a really jealous person, obsessively so, and Maxine, his missus, was a friendly girl, is the politest way to say.
Maxine Carr?
Maxine Carr,
I remember the name, yeah.
And they were living in Soham, and he was the caretaker at the school. And she said she was going back to Grimsby, where she's from for a weekend with her mother. And Huntley thought that the mother was a bit loose and the daughter was definitely a bit loose. And he was beside himself, sort of eating him up, you know what I mean, about what his missus might get up to. And before she left for the weekend, she worked in the school as a classroom assistant. And one of those two girls had given her a card because she'd lost her job, saying, "Oh, we'll miss you." You know, like they really liked her. So she's gone up to Grimsby, and he's ringing her up every 5 minutes, saying, "You're cheating on me," and all this. And the next day, he's rung, and she said, "I'm staying up here." And he absolutely flipped, right? And those two girls come walking by, and he's out the front brushing his dog, right? And they went, "Oh, where's Miss Carr?" And I think he thought, "Fucking Miss Carr, I'll teach Miss Carr," you know what I mean? Your little teacher's pets, you know what I mean? So he's brought them in the house and he's killed them, do you know what I mean? And that's why I think he killed them, because of this jealous rage, you know what I mean? And he associated them with her. And it turned out she had been cheating. After they were arrested, you know, there's photos of her in the paper kissing this bloke and stuff like that.
So she wasn't in Grimsby for the fish and chips? She was
No. She was there for the fish fingers, I think.
Right. but that is mad what happened to, you know, I mean, you always kind of wonder what drives people to doing some of these kind of crazy things. And, you know, like you said, it could have just been like that mad moment where we just lost the plot.
Well, there's a really horrific one, was William Bingham. His brother is the SAS guy, Mark Billingham.
Right, okay, yeah.
That's
on
his
the...
He's not coming on here, is he?
No.
Oh, right.
Well, he might do, I don't know.
He might do. But
he's the guy on the SAS.
SAS, yeah.
Right.
This is his brother, right? He was another jealous lunatic, right? And his missus left him for a woman. So they've got a daughter called Miley. I think she was 6 or 7. And he had her on a Friday nights or something, do you know what I mean? So he's gone round the house and had a row with the missus, gone home, give his own daughter pizza, right? And he's photographed her sitting on the bed eating pizza. And when she's finished, he's got a big kitchen knife and stabbed her to death.
His own daughter?
His own daughter, to get at his missus. And I wrote to him for a long time, and his brother was visiting him. And he's going, "Oh, we've had a great visit," and he was having a laugh. And I thought, that don't sit right with me, you know what I mean? And fortunately, he died of natural causes in Birmingham prison about a year ago or so. That was fairly recent, that case was.
What a crazy, I mean, it's just like, I just you can't get, it's really hard to kind of get your head around why anybody would.
It is, but it's given me a kind of unique understanding of them. And I think that it's really controversial that they shouldn't be arrested or they shouldn't be classed as criminals, right? These people who do these things. Because if you look, in my opinion, if you look at a 3-year-old girl and think, I think there's something wrong with him mentally.
There's got to be. There's
got to be, right? So if you're in prison for murder, that's another disturbing fact to these cases. I became friendly with Winnie Johnson, right? Whose son Keith Bennett was took away by Ian Huntley and Myra, put on the moors, and never been found to this day. And Winnie, the poor cow, right? The Christmas my wife died, I went up to Manchester and met her. My wife died on the 2nd. And it was around Christmas Eve, I went up to see her. And she used to save money doing cleaning jobs, right? To hire this thing. It looked like a lawnmower, but it was an X-ray machine, right? And that woman in her 60s used to go across the moors with this X-ray. I don't even think she knew how to work it, right?
Right.
Looking for a son. It was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen, right? And all them sort of things, like Armstrong, used to drive me on. You know, when I'd read another one in the paper, I'd think, I want you and all, do you know what I mean? And
so what do you think? So if somebody does this, right? Somebody does like that to that 3-year-old, And you said you don't think
No.
What do you think they should be executed, or do you think they should
this is
be?
what I was leading up to.
Right.
If you're in prison, right, and the screw says to you, take an aspirin, you can say no, right? You don't have to, they cannot force you to do anything other than lock you in your cell, right? They can't make you go on courses. They can't make you take medication. They can't do nothing. But the bit I wanted to say was, say like Blenky murdered that child, he gets done for murder, right? So he goes to prison for murder. So he can't do sex offenders courses. So all that time he's in prison, he can't do, same as Huntley, he can't do sex offenders courses because they're not in prison for sexual offences. They're in for murder. The police should charge him with everything anyway. So, but they don't. So what I was saying was, when you're in prison, they can't force you to take medication, right? And say you serve 9 years and you've got to be released after 9 years, they can't keep you in either. They've got to let you go. No matter how dangerous you are, they've got to let you go, right? There's a guy called Craig Sweeney who I corresponded with, and he begged them not to release him because he knew what he was going to do, right? He was going to reoffend. But they had to release him, and he reoffended. And he said to me, listen, I know I've got a problem, right? He said, but if I go to my doctor and say I've got these feelings, the doctor's got a duty to report me to the police. So I can't tell me doctor. I definitely can't tell me mates. You know what I mean? So he said, where do I turn to? There's no phone lines. There's no nothing. I'm just like a bomb walking around the community waiting to go off. Do you know what I mean? So this is what made me start looking into it. You know, what's with all these people? And then I thought, in Sweden and a few other countries now, especially in America, South America, if you interfere with a child, right, you are automatically sectioned under the Mental Health Act. And while you're in custody under the Mental Health Act, they can sterilise you, they can give you electric shock treatment if they want, they can give you any medication they want because you are not in control of anything. You're under the Mental Health Act, and you cannot be released until a doctor says that person is cured or, in my opinion, will never offend again. So I think that is the way to go.
Do you think they can treat this though? Because so many people say, oh, it's an illness, it's a sickness, but, you know, I mean, and then they do. I know people who, I don't know them personally, but I know of people that have been put into these things and they've had this sort of rehabilitation or they've had this counselling or this mental health stuff or whatever, and they've come out and done it again. So
I don't believe that you should experiment with children. And that's what that is. If you're saying, well, I think that's an experiment then, in my eyes. So, no, I don't believe they can be cured.
Right.
But I do believe if they're sterilised, that will take away their urge to commit them offences. And there's other things you can do in this day and age, tag them, chip them, right, you know, so they're not allowed in their schools, they're not allowed, you know, there are ways to control. Because the violenters now, what you see on the internet, are doing what I did 30 years ago, right? But there was no internet then, so I had to send letters, right? But most of the people they catch, in my opinion, aren't pedophiles.
Right.
They're just losers sitting on the internet, have had no life, no girlfriend, nothing, and they get carried away on this nonsense and meet them. You know, they're obviously bad people, but they're not what I would say, or, you know, they're not going to go out and murder children or rape children. I'm sure some would. But, you know, fair play to them, they do what they do and that's all good. But I definitely wouldn't experiment and say it might not happen. Do you know what I mean? Right. Definitely wouldn't. If you do that, that's it. There's no second chance. There's no nothing. Do you know what I mean? And most of them have been abused. Like Armstrong, right? He was a product of his mother's father, right? And he slept with his mother till he was 16, right? So he ain't going to turn out to be a normal person, is he? So most of them have been abused themselves. So when does, you know, if you said to Armstrong was abused till he was 16, you'd feel sorry for him. But when do you start to hate him? Do you know what I mean? When he starts, it's an issue no one will talk about.
Right.
You can't go in a library and find a book about it. No one wants to read it. It's too dark.
Yeah.
But it's a frightening subject because the people who commit them crimes aren't people in dirty macks and strangers. 9 times out of 10, the people you know. Do you know what I mean? Or your children know.
Or that are perceived to be upstanding members of the community.
Absolutely. Good Jimmy Savile, do you know what I mean?
Nolan.
no, yeah, but...
But he was another one, wasn't he? I mean, literally in front of everybody, just fucking doing all that shit and like just literally... And you know, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was I'm sure it's still as bad now, but it seemed to be a thing in the like... I don't know if it's the 70s or the 80s, but it's like it seemed to be loads of them. Do you know what I mean? It was just like Gary Glitter, it was Jimmy Savile, who was the other one? Ralph Harris. I mean, they all just come out of the woodwork. And it's like, and as growing up as a kid, I used to watch their shows. I used to think they were funny. I used to think they were, these are people that you looked up to. And the fact that all 3 of them come out as being that, it sort of made you sort of... Welcome back to season 3 of the Criminal Connection podcast. I want to say a massive thank you to all our season 3 sponsors. We love you. Big thanks to our sponsor, IME. This global tech outfit ain't messing about. They've got these slick video interviews that have you connecting like there's no tomorrow. Whether you're running a business, running the streets, or doing your own thing. Perfect for those in marketing, recruitment, admissions, and even for auditions. And their platform, smooth as silk, designed with you lot in mind. IME's the ticket to making those connections count. A big thanks to Wildcrest Events for sponsoring the show. From adrenaline pumping sporting events to chart topping sensations, Wildcrest Events have them all. Make sure you drop them a line down below. And if you put in CCP5 off, you will get a 5% discount. Now that's a proper good deal. VIP security services have been established for 35 years. VIP Security offers a personal security service to escort you, your family and your friends, whether on business or out for the evening. Protect what's important to you. We're watching you while others are watching us. Prevention is always better than the cure. You're in safe hands. Security solutions across Essex, London and the home counties. This episode is brought to you by Mark Oliver Bespoke Tailors. Now let me tell you, Mark Oliver is one of the best tailors in Savile Row. All of their products are made in Milan. I've had my suits made there for over a decade and I swear by them. Mark Oliver brings together the classic Savile Row sharpness with the contemporary cut and style of Italy's leading tailoring houses. Available by appointment only in London's Savile Row. Mark Oliver's award-winning luxury service is the best there is. So go on. Treat yourself to a luxury bit of tailoring. Question your sanity, because you know, it's like if you follow somebody or you like somebody growing up, and then you find out that they're that way inclined with it. I mean, I think Jimmy Savile was probably the worst.
Yeah.
If everything that they say about him is true, which I believe is. I mean, working in a hospital so he could sleep with the dead bodies and all that stuff. I mean, it's just like mad. It's just like what is I mean, I always looked at him and thought it was something odd about him. But, when you can't put your finger on what it is.
I do. But because of that, I'm very proud of what I've done. If I was a journalist and I got 3 and child murders to confess, I'd get an award, do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
But
you know something, Bernie? I'm glad you've explained it on here. Mm-hmm. So for all those people that go, why is he writing to child molesters? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? Mm-hmm. Well, now you've got your answer. Why he's doing it? To fucking get these people banged up and off the fucking street. So,
but you also save the families.
Exactly.
All that appeals.
I mean, look, nobody.
Innocence.
People that are normally on the keyboards going, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? If it was their family that has been put through that trauma, they'd be glad that somebody like you's come out the woodwork and gone, do you know what? I'm going to write a letter to this fucker and I'm going to get him fucking to fess up and fucking get, like you said, get what he deserves. Or she, what she deserves, So.
But most people, if you say to most people, what should we do with pedophiles? 99.9% will say hang them, right?
I don't know anybody I don't know that many people who are sympathisers.
No, but
unless they're, there is a movement now going, they can't help it, they're sick, which I think is bollocks.
Yeah.
But personally, it's just my opinion. And then there's other people, obviously if you were in that community, you'd be going, oh no, it's okay, it's fine. But the majority of people, the 99.9%, all, and especially if you've got children as well, you can't even get your head around why anybody would even go there.
But the problem with that philosophy, hang them, is they've got to commit an offence to be young. So they've got to murder or damage a child to be young, which I think is wrong. I can understand people thinking it, but I think they should be identifying them and sectioning them before they kill anyone, you know what I mean?
You know, maybe that's something that, you know, government could look at, you know, to you know, how do we actually nip this in the bud early? I mean, you know, there's got to be signs. There's got to be...
Absolutely, yeah.
You say something or, you know, you're on Googling something, you know. I mean, now they can Google if you want to download a bomb-making kit, right, or making a 3D machine gun or whatever. So they must be able to know that if you're typing up whatever, you know, so there must be ways of detecting.
But moving on from that dark subject.
Have you got anything nice to talk about, Bernie?
Yeah. Another murder coming up. But, you know, when Leach, that mugworms, and they've got this little sidekick, right, called Jason Alday. He's a kind of wannabe gangster, wannabe football hooligan, wannabe man, you know. He orchestrated that video when they insulted my wife. Wow. And
have you met him?
No, fortunately for him. And his brother committed suicide, which is tragic, right? His brother Junior. And then a couple of months ago, I'm looking on the internet and I see all day on there, right? This is just to describe what type of people these are, right? And he's saying, yeah, my brother was murdered. What? Murdered? Do you know what I mean? To try and make himself like gangster, and he's saying his poor brother was murdered. Do you know what I mean? It just highlights what sort of people they are. Do you know what I mean? But them three anyway, they're criticising me over these bar things and child murderers and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of people then link everything I do to that. Do you know what I mean? In 1991, in Battersea, Vardens Road, there was a 21-year-old girl called Allison Shaughnessy. And they kind of linked this to that mob do. But this is the truth about my involvement with him. She had an husband. She just got married to a guy called John Shaughnessy. They were all Irish. And John was having an affair with a girl called Michelle Taylor in the Churchill Hospital down near the War Museum. And Michelle, it was her first boyfriend, and she became obsessed with John or besotted with John. And in June 91, she offered to give Alison... No, they offered to take some plant pots back to their house because they were too heavy for Alison to carry on the train or whatever. And when Alison was leading them into the flat in Vardens Road, Michelle pulled out, like a steel ruler. Her father was a window cleaner, and he'd sharpen the edge so it was like a knife. He used to scrape moss off the windows and stuff like that. She's pulled out this 12-inch steel ruler and stabbed Alison in the back, and then stabbed her 54 times, the neck, the chest, obliterated her, right? So she went on trial with her sister because her sister was with Elisa. They went on trial at the Old Bailey, and my brother was up at the Old Bailey for some sort of assault in South London, my brother Paul. So I was up there with him, and they called this the crime of the century, the trial of the century, the Taylors. It had everything, lust and jealousy and betrayal and sex and everything else. So it was all over the front page of every newspaper. So we're in the waiting room, and this woman's sitting there and say, "Oh, hello," she started chatting to her. And it turns out she was the Taylor's mother. Her name was Anne. And we was talking about her case because we'd seen it in the paper. And I said, "I'll be honest with you." I said, "Your barrister should get onto this, that they're prejudicing the trial because of the reporting in the newspapers." I thought it was a bit over the top, like they're showing wedding videos where they've done stills to make it look like Michelle's kissing John, and they're calling it Judas' kiss and all this. I said, that'll influence the jury that well. And you see the jury going in the morning with a newspaper under their arm. I said, you should pull your barrister about that. And she goes, "Oh, you seem to know a lot about this." I said, "Unfortunately, I've been in trouble all my life. So I know a fair bit about the law, right?" So, chat, take my number. And Wish you well. So anyway, the girls got convicted and sentenced to life. I think they were 21 or something like that, and Lisa was 19. Michelle 21, Lisa 19, I think. So Anne's rung me up and she goes, "Oh, we're in the right mess. We're going to get him out." So I said, "I'll help you." So me and her dad, Derek, looked at all the evidence, and we did what we did in the Essex thing. We started creating evidence. We questioned the times it took to get from Vardens Road to the Churchill Clinic. We recorded him in a car and went slow and got cars in front to slow us down. We found a tramp, right, who he was paid a malt loaf. Do you remember malt loaves?
Yeah.
We give him a malt loaf because he was hungry. And he made a story up about this guy confessing in this sort of squat in South London. And he become a star witness. He was on the telly and everything, right, this tramp. He'd only had a malt loaf, do you know what I mean? He's going, "Yeah, I was there the night he confessed." And we got all the media on board, which is why the Guardian hate me, Nick Davis. And we filled them off, do you know what I mean? They really believed they were innocent. So eventually they got out and everything was happy-dappy, you know, they was all over the moon. And she said, "I want to write a book about it," right? So this was before he took her and him and on the scene. I've been writing all my life, do you know what I mean? So I went, "Right, I'll help you do it." So we went to Wales, and it was probably the biggest mistake in my life. I got really drunk and I ended up sleeping with her. And I woke up in the morning and she said, "Well," I think, "Oh, fucking hell, what have I done?" Do you know what I mean? It's like condemned man at sunrise. What have I done? So I sort of tried ignoring it. And she started being really jealous, right? They were like really jealous people. The pizza delivery boy took a shine to their young sister and they were outraged, right? So they rung the pizza delivery and ordered a pizza. When the kids come to the door, they threatened to do him in, do you know what I mean? "You fucking going to my sister." I'm thinking, whoa, here we go, you know what I mean? So they're going to me, "You shouldn't be going to work in Basildon. You should be here." So I thought, right, I'll get this book done, walk away, job done. So one day I'm in the flat near it and I'm looking through the unused evidence, just looking for material, and I found this letter. And this letter says that because of admissions made by Lisa, she should become a prosecution witness against her sister. So I knew they'd done it, do you know what I mean? So Michelle's come back in the flat and I went, "What the fuck's that?" And I threw this letter at her and she saw what it was and she went, blew up, slamming doors. "You never thought we was innocent. You never." I said, "Forget all that. Explain the letter." Do you know what I mean? So we've had a massive row. And I've walked out the flat and I thought, that's it. I'm washed my hands. I can't tell anyone because I've been at it with them. I've been falsifying evidence, perverting the course of justice, everything, right? I'm banging with him. I can't tell anyone. So shortly after that, they started ringing my then partner up saying, "Oh, come and meet us." And I went to her, "Don't go anywhere near them people meetings because you won't be coming back," do you know what I mean? And they kept ringing, and then I started getting loads of late night calls. And I put in a complaint to BT, and they traced the calls to the West End outside this club called the Velvet Underground. Tony Tucker used to have the door at the Velvet Underground at the time, right? So we used to have a doorman at Rackhills called Ray Book, right? And when I fell out with the Taylors, Ray went to live with them in South London. I never had a problem with Ray. He was all right, you know what I mean? So he started working for Tucker at the Velvet Underground. Tucker rung me up and he went, "You know, there's a recording of it." Well, not me and Tucker, but Tucker rung me up and said, "Have you got a problem with Ray working at the Underground?" And I went, no problem. Let him crack on, you know. So then we started getting these phone calls, like in the early hours of the morning, silent phone calls from outside the Velvet Underground. So I've rung Lisa up, right, and I recorded it because I know what they're like, right? And there's a recording of that conversation. And at the end of the conversation, foolishly, with the benefit of hindsight, I said, "I ain't threatening you, right?" I said, "But this don't end here. This is just the start of it," or words to that effect, do you know what I mean? My mate runs that place, Tucker, right? And when he asked Tucker for a job, Tucker asked me,
if it was all right for him to work there, if I had any objection to it. I goes, no, I ain't bothered about it. I said, let him do what he wants, right? But now he's starting giving me grief. All that will get changed around and stopped. And that's only the beginning of it.
What, you threatened us?
I ain't threatening no one. I never threaten anyone. You should know that by now.
You've never threatened anyone?
Never.
And that panicked them. They thought he's going to tell. They didn't even know. They thought I still had the letter, but I didn't. I threw it in the flat, right? They thought I still had the letter, so they're panicking. So they've gone to court to get an injunction to stop me from saying anything about them. But I was never going to anyway. So when people say, oh, you had the Taylors over here, they took me to court, right? So they've said...
There's two sides for every story, right?
Yeah. So they said, the court said, do you agree to the injunction? I said, no, I don't agree to it. Why should I be injuncted? I've got nothing to say. I've got nothing to say, you know what I mean? So then they started the court process, right? And it just, I could see it, and I'm thinking in my head, stop. But they're going, Mark Stevens is always on GMTV. He's like the celebrity lawyer. He was their lawyer, and I was representing myself, right? So this is in the High Court, and I'm thinking, stop. I even made a big envelope like that, right? Nothing in it. And I put it under my arm, and I went into court with it. I wanted him to think, fuck, he's got the letter. Do you know what I mean? And he come over to me, Stevens didn't even, what's in the letter? What's in the envelope? I said, you'll find out in due course. Do you know what I mean? I was trying to tell him that I've got the letter, but I'm not going to show it to anyone. Do you know what I mean? But I couldn't speak to him. And it just got deeper and deeper, and they started saying I'm a violent person, I'm this, I did that. Me and Ray bashed this guy for a bit of money, and they brought that up, and it just got deeper. So in the end, I went, fuck it. And so I just told the whole story, right? And I was questioned by the police, and I said, they said, just if you tell us everything, what's gone on, fair enough. So I did. And then we went to court, and the court went on for about 4 years, right? And this learned judge said, what we'll do, he said, he's saying that the solicitor wrote the letter, right? So I'm ordering all the solicitors who ever had any contact with him to write an affidavit saying whether or not you wrote that letter, right? And they all refused. So they could, they couldn't say we didn't write it because morally they one of them did, but they also didn't know whether I had it or not. Do you know what I mean? So they're not going to risk their careers for them two. So I won. Do you know what I mean? And that would, I can now say, without being sued, that they murdered Allison, which they did. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
So
has that come out?
Yeah, I wrote a book about it. Yeah.
Wow. What
The Dream Solution.
Oh, The Dream Solution.
But it was an horrific murder. Horrific. They butchered her. And totally.
And did they go to jail?
Yeah, for a year. It was only in for a year, and then they got out. They got out.
That's the shortest prison time ever, isn't it?
Well, they were released. They were found not guilty after a year because of the new prejudicial press coverage, and the judge said they were deemed innocent, which when they took me to court, they ended up being, guilty again. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was. That's another one. They're going, oh yeah, and he tricked them. He tricked nobody. You know.
Well, it's good. It's good that you've put a lot of these sort of myths. Or I think the problem with social media, the internet, people telling stories, right? People will go, "Oh, Bernie's writing to files," and people automatically go, "Why is he doing that? He's a fucking wrong," right? But there's no context to it. But I think what this podcast today's done is given context to a lot of these things. So, as per we always say, the audience can decide. You know what I mean? You can actually go, well, do I agree with it? Don't I agree with it? But I think, bottom line, if it was your family or your son or your daughter, or your nephew or your niece or your grandchild, that was getting this stuff happening to them, you'd be praying for somebody like you to.
I honestly don't give a monkeys what anyone thinks. It's what I think.
Well, sure, right? You made that choice.
I'm proud that I put them people, and they're still in prison to this day, and they've never appealed. They've never upset the families by saying they're innocent, or there's been no, left-wing lawyers saying, or woke lawyers saying, they're in and they're staying in. You know what I mean?
I'm with you, Bernie. I think it's a good thing.
I don't give a flying what people think. You know what I mean? I'm very proud of what I've done.
Oh
very
no,
proud.
I'm with you. I'm agreeing, but I'm just saying.
Oh, I know.
People that watch it and view it will have different views.
Yeah.
But I think the bottom line is, if you haven't been through something like this, and your family's been through it, you can always just go, well, I think this, that, and the other. But if it actually happened to someone in your family, you might have a different view.
Well, they're wrong to think that because these people, right, are everywhere.
Right.
They're everywhere. There's not a city in this country where a child hasn't been murdered. Do you know what I mean? They're everywhere, and everyone, for the general good of society, should be aware of them and the danger they pose. So to dismiss it and say it's wrong, well.
But then again, it's like that they only get a small part of the context. They don't actually
of course.
read the rest of it.
Same with the tailors. They go, oh, you ripped the tailors off. Well, how did I rip the tailors off? They were stupid enough to take me to court. Do you know what I mean? And that was their choice, not mine. I didn't enjoy it. 4 years backwards and forwards in front of him. Mark Stevens is a clever man, you know what I mean? Turned me inside out more than once. But you just got to keep going, and that's what drives me. When Womes and them, I don't want to keep going on about it, but when Womes and them made that video, that was a big mistake of their lives, not mine, because it drove me then to start looking deeper into things, you know. And I unearthed the CCRC report, which rubbished everything his brother's ever said. And even just recently, I worked with a guy called Martin, absolute genius, lives in Devon. And for being meticulous, I've never seen anyone come close to him. When even the police didn't pick this up, right? But he's only just uncovered it. I'll tell you briefly, Steele's alibi for the night that Tony Tucker and them were murdered was that he and his wife, Jackie Street, were in Bulford, which is near Upminster, picking up a trailer. They arrived home at 7:25, right? Rettendon from his house is 40 miles. So if he's home at 7:25, it's a 55-minute drive. He's in the clear, he couldn't do it. But he's only got his wife as a witness. So what he did, he found his ex-sister-in-law, Phyllis, and her daughter, Gemma, to give evidence from at the trial, right? And I have got it word for word, but I'll do it from memory. Gemma Stanbrook is the daughter. She said, we arrived at Mick's house that night, right? And Coronation Street was on, right? Now, people of our age, I mean, my son's probably never heard of Coronation Street, but people our age...
I think it's got really annoying... Wow.
But we all know we all know it starts at 7:30. It's a bit of an institution.
Right,
do you know what I mean?
And then EastEnders is 8, isn't it? So like if you're into your soaps, you watch that and you watch that.
So Gemma Stanbrook's saying to the jury, we got there just as Coronation Street started. So in the jury, they're thinking 7:30. And then she said, Jackie was living in the kitchen making sausage rolls. Coronation Street was still on, mentions it again. And then she said, Jackie brought the sausage rolls in, and I wasn't watching it, but I knew it was Coronation Street because of the characters on the TV, mentioned it 3 times. And then she said, just before we were leaving, Coronation Street had ended. She'd mentioned it 4 times, you know what I mean? So it's in the jury's head that we were there at 7:30 when Mick said he was there. He wasn't out murdering Tucker and him. He was at home eating sausage rolls and thingy. So 30 years have passed near enough. The police had that information. The jury had that information. The judge had that information. No one ever questioned it. But my friend Martin, he's meticulous, and he's sitting there and he's looking, he's thinking, what are the chances, right, that Coronation Street wasn't on or didn't start at that time 30 years ago, 28 years ago? So he's gone through all the old newspaper things. And on that night, right, for the first time in a zillion years, Coronation Street didn't start till 9:30 because Blackburn Rovers were playing in the Champions League and it was live on the telly.
Right.
So his alibi is gone. You know what I mean? He's a lying so-and-so. He was out murdering Tucker, Tate and Rolf. And Stan Brooks, his missus, they all lied. But the police never had that at the trial. They never worked that out, do you know what I mean? If they had done, well, he got found guilty anyway, but
Right.
he can't get out of that, do you know what I mean? He can't get out of it. And to cement it even further, Jackie Street said, our Mick's mother rang at 7:28 or 7 something, like 7:30 or something. And the Stan Brooks are there. So she's saying they're there when that phone call happened. And you can log a phone call through BT. They'll go, yeah, that phone call was at 7:32. The Stan Brooks were there at 7:32, but they couldn't have been watching Coronation Street because it didn't start till 9:30, do you know what I mean?
Right.
So his whole defence sort of collapses on top of that, do you know what I mean? But I'm hoping, I've just finished them five books, it turned out to be. 500,000 words I've written, right?
Oh, that's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And I'm hoping that'll be the end of it, but I know it won't. While people like you keep making films and people watch them, you know, you'll keep making them. Yeah, when people write books and they read them, the people keep writing them. While people have conspiracy theories on the internet and monetize them, people watch them, they'll keep making them.
I mean, look, I don't know why it's such an interesting subject, and lots of people say they've had enough of it, they're sick of it, you know, it's been done to death. But I just think, you know, I don't know. I wish I knew what the reason is why people are so obsessed with anything to do with Tony Tucker, Pat Tate and Craig Rolfe. And Bernard Mahoney, the Essex boys, Carlton Leach. I mean, it's like an ensemble of these characters, isn't it? Where, you know, people want to go, well, what was the truth and what happened? And, you know, so.
It's a bit like music, you know, you'll have, it all comes in cycles, doesn't it? Like when I was younger, it was, my dad knew the craze, you know what I mean? And now you don't hear about the craze much anymore. And it's, my dad knew Tony Tucker. I mean, some of the, you won't believe the grief, right, I've had out of this. I'm nearly done, right? But all these people say, well, why would you keep going on about it, right? But if I shut up, right, I'd be a drug dealer, I'd be a murderer. I mean, some ex-policeman has now said on the internet that he's got proof that it was me who told the police it was Mick Steele who'd done the murders 2 days after the murders. And apparently I got onto Pat Tate's bungalow roof and he'd a gun, right? Where he's just making it up.
You Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, Spider-Man as well, yeah. I'm a fat bastard, but I'm climbing up roofs. So I wish you'd make their minds up. But behind all that, you know, there are innocent people. There's my kids, my grandkids, right? They go to school and they go, your dad's a murderer, your dad's a drug dealer, and that happens, that's real. Do you know what I mean? That is real. And it's how other people treat me as well. Just after my wife died, we paid a builder to come and do some work at our house, and she died, and I forgot about the building. And then a little bit later, I rang the bloke up. I said, "Look, are you going to come and do this work?" So I said, "Listen, I'm going to Paris for a weekend. So when I come back, either do the work, skirting boards and crap like that, or put the money through my door, and that's the end of it, right?" I've gone to Paris, come back, the police are waiting, they arrest me, right? Blackmail, demanding money with menaces. I'm going, whoa. And I've got the recording of this. People won't believe me, right? This policeman's sitting in the interview room and he's going, you intimidate people with your reputation. I went, well, reputation isn't evidence. It's someone's opinion, do you know what I mean? I said, so that ain't evidence. I said, what you want to bet? He goes, the Essex boys. I went, what? He went, I've seen the film. Right? You won't believe this. If you listen to the recording, you won't believe it. I've given it your power. Right? He's going, I've seen the film. I know what it's like. I'm going, it's starring Sean Bean. He went, yeah. And he honestly believed that he actually mentioned it in court. Do you know what I mean?
They had no choice but to pay.
Fictional film.
Okay.
Sean Bean stars in it.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the film.
Well done.
It's very
I hope
good.
you enjoyed it.
It's not
And
bad.
what's that got to do with
Not
this?
bad.
He's really
Okay. So did you write that?
This, with respect, this really is
Simon Hill's wrote it, isn't it?
Extremely wide-ranging. How can it possibly be relevant to this particular inquiry?
Okay, well, I just thought I'd make you aware that we have that in our possession. Okay. The time by my watch is 17:08, and we'll conclude the interview.
And another time, I had a guy stab me with a 14-inch kebab knife, right? It went through my shoulder and out my chest, right? I'm in hospital, and I could easily have died, right? Easily. Went right straight through me. I come out of hospital, and I've gone to see my mate Martin down in Devon. The police ring me up. They went, we want to speak to you. I said, listen, I don't want to press no charges, no nothing. That's the end of it. Do you know what I mean? I went, no. We're going to arrest you. Arrest me? He said, yeah, they arrested me. The bloke who stabbed me, he never even got questioned. That thing with the builder, that policeman had me put in prison for 5 months on remand, waiting to go on trial. And then after 5 months, he went, nah, just, that's the end of it. And I was released, you know what I mean? They dropped the charges against me.
Why was you stabbed with the kebab knife? What was that about?
Well, my son Vinny had a car accident, and the car, he hit a lorry head on, right? And the car was mashed, wrecked. So I'm in the house, and I hear these kids talking. I've gone out, and they're looking at his car, and they're his mates, right? They're about 16 or something. So I said, they went, oh, Vinny's looking, blah, blah, blah. And then the one of the lads went, they're here. I went, who's here? They went, him. And there's these two blokes in their 30s. Both of them have got machetes. Like kebab knives. They don't look like machetes. Great big knives, right? And I went, mate, put the knife down. You don't need a knife for kids. And he went, do you fucking want some? I said, listen, do not threaten me with a knife, right? Because it won't end well, right? So he's gone, woof, and he stuck it in me, and it come out my chest. And rather than fall down, I started fighting back, and his mate, thank God, dropped his weapon and run, right? So I've got this bloke, and I'm thinking, if I let him go, I'm going to die. And he's trying to pull the thing out, and it's just ripping me here, right? You can see it in the photo, it's ripping me here. And the blood, I can feel it running down my trousers in my legs, right? I can feel the blood in my legs, and I'm thinking, I'm in trouble here. So I'm smashing him. And eventually he fell on the floor. Well, he ran away first, and I chased him. And as I'm chasing, the blood's going shh, all up the side of my head. And I've captured him, and he's gone down, and he's trying to get up. He's managed to get the knife out of me, and he's trying to get up. And I thought, if he gets up, I'm going to die, right? Because I'm losing my strength and my consciousness, and I know I'm in trouble. Do you know what I mean? So I just kept kicking his head till he stopped moving. And I thought I killed him, and I give the knife to one of my son's mates and went, hang on to that. Walked in the house, and my ex-girlfriend, or mother of my kids, is in the house with my daughter. And she's going, oh my God, what's happened to you? Because, look, just give me a Jack Daniels. I'm having a drink, I'm going to bed. And then I went outside and I just collapsed. I'd lost all this blood. And he turned out he had like a brain injury, or he was in a brain hospital in Cambridge. And I was in hospital and got eventually released, and then they arrested me, you know what I mean? But I've had loads you won't believe the shit I've had over the Essex boys crap. People go, you're one of the Essex boys. And I'll go, no mate, I'm a lorry driver. You look like him. You think you're f***ing hard, you get, I'll fight you. Please. It's made me a recluse, right? I've got one friend, Gavin Spicer, best pal on earth. You know what I mean?
What about me? I thought I was your best friend.
No, but I'm going to people. I'll go and see him. I might see him once a year. He lives in South. I have a bit of lunch with him, and that's it. The only people I associate with me family. You know what I mean? Take me boy out, and that's what annoys me about all these people, right, who gangsters. They're all on the internet, like selling mugs and T-shirts and crap, right? Yeah, I'm proper. You never see them out in the field kicking a ball with a kid or taking their wife out, or do you know what I mean?
They're probably too busy being proper.
But I get so much pleasure out of being with my kids, you know what I mean, and my family. They're sniffing shitty coke on a Friday night, you know what I mean, and telling everyone how, please. I just couldn't cope with it. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't cope with it. To me, it's just. I worked on the door, and you did things, and you went home, and then you did something the next day, and it's just part of your life. It ain't like they're making it like they were the fucking mafia. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Tucker, Tate, and Rolf got involved in one. Right, they weren't massive drug barons. They got involved in one shipment of case. Turned out to be shit. They threatened a bloke and got murdered. That's the story. That end of story.
That'd be a pretty shit film, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Which is why you have to have. Them Rise of the Foot Soldier movies. I look at them and I think, fucking hell. I wish we had swimming pools and women who look like. Have you seen the women in Basildon? Do you know what I mean?
So obviously, as this is going to be your last one, Bernie.
It is, definitely.
Right. Is there anything you want to sort of go into about being associated with the Essex boys?
Well, I've sort of give you a list of problems it's caused me, but there are others. Do you know what I mean? There's my son.
Is there any positives?
No, there's no positives. No. My son worked in the prison service for years, right? He's never been in trouble in his life. He was in the Navy and all that sort of stuff. My eldest son, he's in his 40s, right? And he works like mentoring people in prison, like problem people, right? And he worked there for 3 years, and then they found out who I was, whatever that means, because I ain't got no convictions now. All my convictions are spent. I'm a stand-up citizen, you know what I mean? Allegedly. And they sacked him on the spot. They said, you never told us who your father was. He went, well, who's my father? And they went, this Essex thing and all this gangster thing, and they sacked him on the spot. But the worst incident it's caused me was I met my current wife, beautiful girl, from Newcastle. That's the only drawback with her.
Is that because she speaks funny? Or?
Yeah. This is true story, right? When she was pregnant with our son, I moved from Newcastle to Birmingham so she could have him, and then we moved back. No, I like the Geordies really, but that is true.
Good fun.
That is true. And when I first met her, I used to go up and see her in Newcastle, and her ex-partner, father of a kid, thinks he's a bit of a Jack the Lad, you know, he's another Carlton Leach type, you know what I mean? I'm this, I own all this, I run all this. All right, okay. Council house in Newcastle, you know what I mean? Council estate in Newcastle, he runs it, you know what I mean? So, as soon as they found out about me, right, they went to the court and said, her new partners, Essex boys, drugs, guns, murders, because it was good ammunition for their case, right? So, inevitably, I ended up meeting him and falling out with him, right? So, one night, his elder brother George has come round and put the windows through with a shovel, right?
2 saved messages. First saved message received yesterday at midnight.
Yeah, Bernard, just wanted to let you know I'm sitting outside your house in a silver Ford Focus. You have about 34 minutes to come outside with the 8 shell, or you and your family ain't going to see the light of day ever again. Have a lovely evening.
To listen to the message again, press 1. To save the message, press 2. To delete.
So I've jumped out, run out down the street and collared him. Spoke to him and said, you know, this can't happen and all that sort of stuff. And he's when I was going, I own all this, it's actually what he said to me. I run all this, I own all this. I said, I don't give a what you own. That's my girlfriend. That's her ass. You stay away from it, right? And there was a bit of toing and froing with threats and all that sort of stuff. So his missus, Shirley Elliott, used to be my wife's father's partner, right? And she was saying, just a simple woman, do you know what I mean? So I've seen Shirley the next day and I said, Shirley, tell that clown, right, to just stay away because if he carries on, he'll get done in, he'll get... She went, what do you mean? I said, well, he'll get stabbed, right? I shouldn't have said it, but I did, right? So that evening, about 5 o'clock, me and the wife's gone up to the shops, or girlfriend she was in, and it was snowing. It was December. It was actually December the 2nd it happened. And we've come back down. There's an ambulance in the street. There's all snow on the floor and these people all standing around. And when we got near, you could see in the snow it was all blood. So I went, what the fuck's happening? Because George has done Shirley. I went, are you fucking joking? I thought he'd just stabbed her, you know what I mean? But he'd stabbed her 67 times. He nearly severed her head. He kept stabbing her in the neck and the face and the head and chest.
What was the reason?
Was
she nagging him or?
Probably, yeah.
Right. That was a joke, a bad joke. But
yeah.
What?
The next day he's been nicked for murder, right?
Right.
So he's gone to court and they've said what's happened. And he said, well, Shirley was going to my house, right, to stab me because of what I'd said to her earlier. And he tried to get the knife off her. And in the struggle that ensued, she'd accidentally been stabbed 67 times.
That's what he said?
That's what he said, yeah. So that's
got to be a lie. She must have been nagging him, or she must have said to him that Bernie's going to do whatever, or what? I don't know. She must have.
It transpired. He is coming to our house. She's trying to stop him. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, and she got in the way, basically.
He attacked her in the ass and he went into the street and he butchered her. There's no two way. I'm in touch with her kids, Michael, and that, and they're lovely people. Do you know what I mean? They're lovely, lovely people. And what he done is a fucking animal, right? And he got lifed off and he just got up for parole there and he got knocked back. But that was all. If I was Joe Smith and I went up there, that would never have happened. Do you know what I mean? But because they start all this Essex thing and gangster thing, then that's up the ante times 10. Do you know what I mean? He ain't come out to speak to me. He's coming out with a knife and coming out. And horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So all these people who say, oh, he's cashing it. You know yourself, right? You write a book, you get a pittance, right? You might get an holiday out of it if you're a good writer, but you don't earn fortunes.
But that is horrendous. So to think, you went up there, and because of the association,
yeah. Well, I've spent
led to her getting murdered.
And I spent 5 months in prison. If you listen to the police officer, what he's saying, and most listeners going, is he seriously saying that this is associated with a film with Sean Bean? You know what I mean? It's like you're thinking, and people don't understand all that side of it. They don't get it. Do you know what I mean? And your kids come out from school crying like my daughter used to. Oh, Dad, they said you killed this girl with drugs. You know what I mean? And it's fucking horrendous. And so I stopped going out because of it, really, because I went out to buy a Christmas tree at the weekend and I was sitting there with a wife and this bloke's come over, all right, Bernard, have you photo took of you? What do you think of Tony Tucker? I'm thinking, I'm sitting here having a hot chocolate with a wife.
Getting a Christmas tree.
And it's just a joke, you know what I mean? Right. And they go, who do you think done it? I goes, well, the bloke in prison. No, they didn't. I think, I don't want to have this conversation. I went, all right, then fair enough, they didn't. But it just drives you mad, do you know what I mean? But I'm hoping these five books, there's nothing else to be said. It covers every single bit of it. But I love writing, so I'll continue writing when, they're done. I finished them last night, but...
when do they come out, Benny?
When I get the time. I genuinely work... I was genuinely doing 16-hour shifts last week, do you know what I mean? And so I don't get a lot of time, and any spare time I do it with my family, but I'll get up at 4 and start writing before I go work. I was up at 4 this morning writing, finishing stuff off. And I'll sit on the train and do it, or sit in wherever and do it, do you know what I mean? But I've nearly finished. This guy, he's a good friend of mine. Well, friend. And his name's Scott Delaney. And he's from Dublin, Irish guy, right? And his story's a bit like the Essex one. He gets called a grass and this and that and that. And I get people messaging me, what are you writing that grass's story for? But in the 90s, he, believe it or not, he was the first person to be convicted of a gangland murder in Ireland, and it was in 1997. That's how far behind they are, you know what I mean? And there has been other gangland murders, but he was the first to be convicted. And he got into the rave scene, popping pills and everything at a club called The Asylum in Dublin with his friend Mark Dwyer. And his mother and father split up. And his dad was like a proper respected bloke. He was the top man for Cadbury's in Southern Ireland, right? The chocolate people. He's walking
the Irish Willy Wonka.
Yeah, the Irish Willy Wonka. So he's walking home from a club one night and his dad's pulled up and go, what are you doing? He's going, oh, we've been out. So they go back to the house to a chat because he ain't seen his dad for a while because they split up with his mother. And he's pulled out this big wad of cash, and his dad's gone, where the fuck did you get that? And he goes, we're selling these new things, they're called these. So he's give his dad one, as you do. His dad's up his nut, he's thinking, I'm having some of this. So automatically his dad's got involved, right? Oh, we can do this, we can do that. So, you know what he's like in the 90s.
I mean, do you know something? I've got to say that is like mad to think that somebody lets you go and go, Dad, try one of these. And Dad's sitting there giving it all out. Yeah. It's just mad.
So his dad's got involved with him anyway. So his dad's given him the money to go to Europe to buy a shitload of E's, right? I think there's 40,000 E's or something. And he sent his friend Mark Dwyer. Ironically, Mark had been accused of getting this bloke called Corbally with a bloke called PJ Judge, and they took him into a field and they battered him to death with shovels. And PJ finished him off.
Sounds like Goodfellas, yeah.
Finished him off with a shovel. So Mark was no innocent victim, do you know what I mean? So he sent him off to Europe, and he's come back, meant to meet these people, get the money, the drugs are missing. Age-old story, do you know what I mean? So Scott's dad, Joe, he's got the gear, and it simmered for a while, then it blew up, right? They said, right, we're going to get this sorted. Scott, we want you to go to the house, right, sit in the house with Mark. We've hired these two heavy people, and there's lots of heavy people in Dublin because of the troubles, from Blanchardstown to come in. They're going to kick the door in, AK-47s, balaclava you up, take you off to be questioned, right? So they're sitting there, Mark was telling me, Scott was telling me, they were listening to UB40, right? The doors come in, these two guys come in with balaclavas, AK-47s, tied them all up, balaclavas in the car, and where are we going? We're going to sort this missing E's out. So Joe's at the house when they arrive. They put Scott in the kitchen and they put Mark in the bedroom. They had iron bars, they broke his face, they broke his legs, and he was screaming so loud, they put, remember that song, Search for the Hero, M People? Was it M People? Search for the Hero.
Oh, right.
They put that on full blast to drown out the screams on repeat, right? And they're beating him. And they actually had coke breaks because they were so worn out, right? And the two heavies from Blanchardstown said to Joe, he ain't got your E's, right? He'd have told you by now. He's got broken joints, legs, his face is all smashed, his elbows are all broke, he's been stabbed. They go, he'd have told us by now. And he went, well, he ain't going to live, right? So we'll have to get rid of him, right? So Joe gets his own son and his best mate, takes him to a field, shot Mark in the back of the head with a shotgun, blew his head off, right? And they've beat Scott unconscious. And they've put Scott on top of Mark's body and drove off. They've rang the newspaper, or the police, or newspaper, and said, this is the IRA. We've captured 2 drug dealers. We've dealt with them. They're in a field in Scribbletown, right? That's where it was. So the police and all that go out there and they find these 2 blood-soaked bodies. Mark's dead. Scott's in the hospital and he's smashed to pieces, right? So the police have kind of worked out what's happened because people have told them about this problem with the missing E's. And
right.
So they kind of worked out after a short period of time that Scott's involved. So they've nicked Scott for murder, right? So Scott's in the jail in Mountjoy Prison in Dublin. And his dad's coming to visit him. He's going, Dad, I didn't do all, do you know what I mean? And his dad said to him, but you're a lot younger than me. You'll still be young when you get out, do you know what I mean? Just go guilty. He's going, off, I ain't feeling guilty to murder. I ain't murder no one, do you know what I mean? And his dad's going, deal with it, do you know what I mean? So he goes on trial, keeps his mouth shut, gets found guilty. He's doing life. And he's in the prison. And in Ireland, they say, you won't get parole unless you kind of explain the circumstances of the murder and show remorse. He went, how the fuck can I explain the murder? I was tied up and being bashed and everything else, and, you know, I'm never going to get out, right? So in the end, he said to his dad, Dad, look, I can't fucking do this. And his dad put a 10 grand hit on his own son in the jail, right, to have him whacked, right? So Mark's gone fucking told the truth. So they've arrested the father. The father's got life. Mark got done for conspiracy to murder. He got 10 years, I think. And then he got out and he moved to Manchester. He had family in Manchester. And then he got involved with people associated with Paul Massey, you know, like the Salford lad. And he got nicked at Brussels airport bringing in trying to smuggle in 4 Ks of coke. And then he was living in Dublin. And I'm just trying to skip through his story. This is the book I'm writing. And there was like an immigrant gang in Dublin who he took exception to. So they had this plan to go into this place where these immigrants were and machine gun them all, right? So he went out to, I think it was Belgium. No, France. He went to France. He got nicked in Belgium for the coke, and then he went to France and he got 2 AK-47s, magazines, bullets, you know, the whole shebang. And coming through France, he got stopped and they were found in the car. And he got nicked in France and then he fled France. But because he was trying to import them into Ireland via this country, he's wanted in this country as well. So he can't come on here. But it's a fascinating story. But people say to him, you're a grass. And he's going, so I should have just done life, you know what I mean? And my own dad put a contract out on me. And
I mean, that's what's up. I mean, it sounds like a great movie.
It's a great story, yeah. It's scary people, you know. I mean, people think England's bad. Dublin is just fucking mental. I mean, he's Scott's sister's son, I think he's 17. Last year, might have even been early this year, they shot him dead.
Wow.
And the sister was in the paper saying, I can't believe people do this and it's terrible and they're scum. And because she called them names, on the day of the funeral, the petrol bombed her house, burnt her fucking house to the ground, you know what I mean? So it's a scary fucking place.
Sounds
because
like
of group with terrorism.
Definitely put me down for that book. I definitely want to read
that.
that.
Yeah, but because of group with terrorism, it's a bit like after the Second World War, you had people like Freddie Foreman and, you know, they grew up with death in their youth. They'd seen it all around them. So guns and shooting people was nothing.
Yeah, because a few people, when you mentioned about you'd written a book on the last one, a few people were saying, "Oh, is it about Freddie Foreman and blah blah blah?"
No, it's not. No, and I like Freddie. He's a good guy. I haven't seen him for years. I haven't spoken to him for years, and I definitely am not writing Freddie Foreman's book. Right?
Oh, there you go. You got it. You had it here first.
Yeah. And the other thing, when you was interviewing Mr. Cooper,
John Cooper,
he's a nice guy, isn't he? Even though he tried to turn me over, which was his job, he's a nice guy, right? And I've got absolute respect for him, massive respect for him. He said that I said that Steele confessed to me, which is an easy mistake because of all the mishmash.
Right.
It was the other way. It was John Womes told me Steele and his brother were guilty, but it's understandable error. But a lot of people were saying, "No, I've never heard that before. Why didn't you?" You know. So just for their benefit.
Put it straight. Yeah.
For their benefit, yeah. But he's a nice guy. He's a very nice guy. And Lee, and as I said at the beginning of this, you've had some great people on here. Great, very interesting people. You know?
Yeah, we just try and mix it up, Bernie, and we've got lots of people that haven't done a podcast before, and they're the people that we're obviously more interested in talking to. And then some people have, you know, and I think with all these things, I think what we're doing with this is different anyway. So if you look at Sean Atwood or James English or Dodge Woodall, you know, they're all doing similar stuff, but it's all different. So I think the way that they will interview people will be different than me and vice versa. So if you like my stuff, great. If you don't, go and watch theirs. I mean,
of course.
You know,
and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because all this hate on the internet, I mean, these people don't even know me. Do you know what I mean? They've never sat down with me, never spoke to me. So I'm a bit confused by their anger. But beyond all that internet crap, there are real people, right? Yeah. And I say, I have endured, and I'm not looking for sympathy, but and innocent people in my family have endured absolute misery because of that case, pure misery, right? And if people think I should sit back and say nothing when I'm being accused of giving ecstasy to an 18-year-old girl who died or been involved in the murder of Tucker Tate and Rolfe or all the other bullshit they come out with, and think I should say no, because if you say nothing, it gets worse. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to say something. And if they think different, then, you know, that's a matter for them. But they have to remember, behind all this internet chat, there are real people.
Yeah, of course.
With real lives, and it does affect them. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully the law is going to change soon where it'll knock a lot of that on the head. You know?
I hope so. I mean, I've always been an advocate of, you know, if you set up a profile on social media, you do it with your passport, and it has to be in your name. So if you want to start calling people out, if you want to start trolling people or harassing people or defaming people or lying about people, you get nicked.
Yeah.
You get taken off. But I think the problem with social media is because the platforms are so big. Like you imagine, I don't know how many billions. Say there's 1 billion customers on Facebook, right? You know, you've got 1 billion people using it, and then if 5% of them are getting trolled, right? It's a lot of fucking people. So you imagine getting millions of fucking messages saying, "Oh, this person's trolling me. This person said this. This is a fake profile." Blah blah. For them to actually have someone sitting there going through it or responding to it, a lot of it's going to be probably just bots and AI. And I think that and I don't know how the social media platforms fix this, but because they're so big, I mean, I'm not a tech guy, but somebody said to me that if there's certain things that they don't want, you know, anything that's anti, you know, vaccine, anti-government, and obviously some places you can say what you want, right? But the majority of the world has some sort of rules and governance where they don't want people saying that Bill Gates is, you know, an alien or, you know, there's some of these weird fucking conspiracy theories and nonsense on the internet. And I think obviously what they've tried to do is stop it so they can build into the algorithms that if you say certain things or talk about certain things, it flags it up and then they can actually deal with it. But if you imagine you've got all them people and everyone's got a voice, isn't they? Yeah. And everyone's so if you've got a lot of followers and you've got a following and you start saying, "Oh, by the way, do you know this, that, and the other?" Then people start going, "Oh, well, it must be true," and they don't always go, "Let me do my research to make sure this is right." They just hear it and go, "Yeah, it's fucking wrong, that is." And also sometimes if you say something to somebody, they only hear part of what you said. And then if they then go out and then meet somebody else and they say, "Oh, how did you get them burning it?" "Oh, we just told me this." And it's like, but what you told them wasn't that. But they've added a bit on or took a bit away. And then they then pass it on to somebody else. And by the time it gets to the 10th person, you can kill 3 people and you were the 5th Essex boy. So I think that's just life. So, but I think what social media has done is amplify that. So, which is a shame. But have you got any other things you want to talk about, Bernie?
No.
Is nothing else you want to get off your chest?
No.
Right,
no.
okay, perfect. So,
I think
so you feel like you've been released now? You've been released.
Yeah, I do. But it's a shame you got to do it, do you know what I mean? Because, as I said, there's real people behind all these stories and there's a lot of misery behind these stories. So, you know, people read the books, watch the films, you know, but leave it at that, do you know what I mean?
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home, kids, yeah. Is a good quote.
Yeah.
A good saying.
But if you could go back, Bernie, like to when you first come to the UK and you ended up over in Essex on the door, if you could change time or go back in time, would you change anything?
No. Because
so there's part of you that actually
enjoys
being tortured.
No, there's not. But I think whatever happens to you in life, good, bad, I mean, I've had a lot of death and bad things, but it teaches you stuff, do you know what I mean? And then you can, you know, you can pass that on to your kids. And that's what life is. If you get to your grave and your kids have got a better life than you, then you've succeeded, in my opinion, do you know what I mean? If you're one of these divvies who go, yeah, like, you know, never speak to the police, you're just making the same mistakes you made, do you know what I mean? I want my kids to be decent people. My youngest son, he's going in the police cadets. My eldest son works in the prisons, you know what I mean? Proud of them. I'm not saying, oh, God, you know, the grasses are... They're normal people. Get it around your head. The criminal... When you say, like Leach, I keep mentioning it, you know, people in general who are involved in celebrity gangsters, they're not criminals. You know, what bank has he ever robbed? What person has he ever murdered? What has he ever done? You know, I'll reveal this. It's the last line in the book, you know. His ex-wife, Anne, was featured in this book, Gangsters' Wives, right? And she wrote a line. She goes, when I sit and watch him at his audiences with or book signings, right, I look at him and I think, what have you ever done? Do you know what I mean? That's his own wife said that, you know what I mean? And it's true. What has he done? What, if he was a football hooligan, has he ever had a job? Not to my knowledge. You know, what's he do? What has he done? Do you know what I mean? And I don't want my kids growing up like that. Do you know what I mean? I want my kids to be successful, normal people, because the criminal fraternity is a tiny, tiny section of the community. They don't run Basildon or whatever. You know, 99% of normal people in Basildon have fucking heard of them. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They're sitting around some grubby flat on a Friday night sniffing shit coke. Do you know what I mean? And they think they've made it. It's deluded.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, yeah. Deluded. And their poor wife sitting at home with the kids, they ain't got fucking 10 quid to stick in the electric, do you know what I mean? And they think they're great. It's bizarre.
So you got this book. Have you got a name for it yet? The new book?
Scott's?
Yeah.
No, it kind of comes. Okay. He's got one, and when he sees this, he'll be unhappy that I don't think it's great, but we'll argue that one nearer the time. Do you know what I mean? But it's a great story. He's a lovely bloke, honestly. He sounds really mental and violent, and involved in bad things, and he was, but he's suffered with substance and drink and stuff like that since, because he grew up in a really nice area. His dad was a managing director or whatever of this thing. His mother was a lovely person. And then he suddenly got put into this world, and, I look at him and I feel sorry for him, because he's a nice guy deep down. And it's sad. He's a nice guy, but he's got a great story to tell, and he's telling it for that reason, because it needs to be told. And all these people calling him a grass, they only know half the story. You give evidence against his dad. That's the only bit they know, do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm looking forward to that book coming out in 2024.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I'm looking forward to reading that, Bernie. And I'm really glad that you come on and discussed all the other things that we forgot on the...
If only everyone repeated them words after listening to it, that they're really pleased I come on.
No, I'm really pleased you come on.
I'm a bit of a people.
Right, okay, yeah. but no, I'm pleased you come on, because, as I said, we're not promoting any specific narrative on this show. It's just what it is. And we'd rather listen to people's stories and understand why they do things, and actually get some context behind all the stuff. Mm-hmm. And then that allows other people to then watch it and go, oh, right, okay, I understand why people do what they do. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think you'd ever understand why serial killers go around killing people, or any of these nutters do what they do. But I think it's good to talk about it, and it just makes you probably realise that.
But I couldn't explain to you or anybody else the feeling I got knowing what that person had done to that child, knowing he was going to court to try and get away with it, right? And who knows, in the court system, he could have done, do you know what I mean? Knowing that, when he wrote that letter to me, he was fucked, do you know what I mean? Absolutely fucked. And I was over the moon that he was going nowhere. And he ain't gone nowhere, he's still in there now. And that pleases me every time I open my eyes. He's still in there. And I hope he dies in there. I hope they all die in there.
Makes me happy as well.
I hope they all die in there. So to me, I don't really care what other people think, because they don't understand behind them murders there are families, there's mothers. Nearly every parent, like the Suing ones, the one in Sussex, all them parents separate. They all have. It destroys their family, because the dad might have been at work, or the mother might have been at the shops, and the dad's looking after the kids, or the mother's looking after the kids, and it's always, why did you let them out of your sight? And it gnaws away at them, and it destroys them, and it did destroy them. Sarah Payne's dad drunk himself to death when he separated from his wife.
Really sad.
Do you know what I mean? And there's all that. There's all that, do you know what I mean? And at least the ones I've done, they've got answers. They're still separated as well, but they know. The guy on the bike never went through life thinking, I could have saved that kid, do you know what I mean? He couldn't, he was dead already. So I've got lots of reasons to be cheerful, do you know what I mean?
Reasons to be cheerful?
Yeah, Ian Jury. And when I said it, I thought Ian Jury.
You heard that, didn't you? But no, Bernie, thank you so much for coming on,
No,
mate.
thank
Honestly,
you.
thanks for your
Cheers.
time. I'm glad we got you got a chance to let everybody know.
Vent my spleen.
Vent your spleen, yeah. For the last time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Criminal Connection podcast. My name's Terry Stone, aka the Podfather. Bernard O'Mahony, part 2. What a great guest. Well, it's actually going to be the end, the grand finale. Bernard O'Mahony being on podcasts. Make sure you tune in next week. Criminal Connection. We've got more and more exciting guests.
This was my life.